Your sister's wedding is the family's priority. We can't come to yours, Mom said. I replied, that's fine. They had no idea I owned a $6 million villa in Tuscany. When they saw the photos of our ceremony, they finally understood what they had been refusing to see for years. If you are listening to this right now, tell me where you are and what time it is for you, because I want to know who is here with me in this moment. In the high society draft of Chicago, my sister Morgan was the front elevation, gilded and ornamental, designed to catch the light. I was the load-bearing wall, essential for the structure to stand, but meant to be covered up and forgotten. I learned my role early. I was the practical one, the background character in the Morgan show, the reliable extra who made everything run while she took the spotlight. When I was 10, I asked for a telescope. I wanted to see the rings of Saturn. I wanted to look at something bigger than our suffocating dining room and the rules that lived inside it. On my birthday, my mother handed me a professional contouring kit. She told me that boys do not look at girls who look at stars. They look at girls who know how to highlight their cheekbones. I did not cry. I put the kit in a drawer, then started saving my allowance to buy the telescope myself. That became the pattern. When I brought home a report card with a 4.0 GPA, my father patted my shoulder and said I was lucky to be smart because it made up for my lack of social grace. Lucky, as if I had not spent every weekend studying while Morgan was being driven to galas. Lucky, as if my discipline was an accident instead of a strategy, a shield, a way to survive a family where affection was conditional and attention was currency. They called me boring. They treated my work as some mid-level desk job that paid rent and nothing more. They did not know that I was not just checking spreadsheets. I was a sustainable energy architect. I did not just design houses. I revolutionized how the ultra-wealthy lived off the grid. I designed proprietary solar storage systems for estates in Dubai. I built hidden wind turbines for compounds in Aspen. I worked with privacy-obsessed clients who wanted power without noise and luxury without visibility. My name was whispered in circles my parents could not even pay to enter. I was not just stable. I was wealthy, quietly, staggeringly wealthy. I never told them. Why would I? To them, value was only real if it could be posted online and validated by strangers. My value lived in infrastructure deep underground, humming with silent power, doing the work nobody saw but everybody depended on. That is how I found the chateau. It was a listing that had sat on the market for 3 years, a 17th century estate in Provence, France, priced at $14 million. Most buyers saw ruin. The limestone was crumbling. The vineyards were overgrown. The roof was a disaster. They saw a money pit and walked away. I saw bones. I saw a structure that had survived wars and revolutions and neglect, and I saw that it only needed someone with vision to reinforce it, to clear away rot, to restore what was always there. It felt like looking in a mirror. I bought it under an LLC 3 months ago. I told no one. On weekends, I flew there quietly. I walked through lavender fields that smelled of dust and ancient sun. I ran my hands over cold limestone walls. For the first time in my life, I was not the boring sister or the practical extra. I was the lady of the manor. I was building a sanctuary where silence was not a punishment. It was a luxury. I was rebuilding the chateau, and, in the process, I was rebuilding myself. I just did not realize I would need that sanctuary so soon. The conversation did not happen in a scream. It happened over a coffee table that cost more than my first car, in a room that smelled of lilies and old money. Morgan sat on a velvet ottoman clutching her phone like it was sacred. "It's Vogue, Taylor," she said, her voice pitched high with that frantic neediness she used like a weapon. "They have an opening for the real wedding feature, but it has to be the second weekend of June. The light is better." "That's my date," I said. My voice was level. My mother sighed, the sound of silk rustling against indifference. "Oh, Taylor, be reasonable. You know Morgan's career depends on exposure. You're private. You don't even have an Instagram. Why do you need the prime summer date? November is cozy. It suits you better." "It suits my budget better, is what you mean," I said. My father did not even look up from his tablet. "We're not discussing this. Morgan gets June. We'll pay your change fees if they aren't too exorbitant. I waited for the familiar sting. I waited for the hot rejection that had defined my childhood. It did not come. Instead, I heard a sound inside my chest. A sharp, clean crack, like a dead branch finally giving way under snow. It was the sound of obligation breaking. For 30 years, I thought my invisibility was punishment. I thought I was the prisoner waiting to be noticed. But looking at them now, Morgan calculating lighting angles, my mother enabling it, my father dismissing me like furniture, I realized my invisibility had not been a cage. It had been a shield. Because they did not see me, they could not stop me. I had built an empire in the dark while they were blinded by flashbulbs. They thought I was weak because I was quiet. They never understood that silence is where the architect works. Silence is where the blueprint is drawn. I did not scream. I did not beg. I did not explain that my budget could buy their entire neighborhood. I reached into my bag and pulled out my tablet. I opened the vendor portal for the Chicago venue. My deposit was non-refundable, $25,000. To them, losing that money would be a tragedy. To me, it was an extraction fee, the cost of freedom. I tapped the screen. Cancel booking. Confirm. I opened the catering contract. Terminate immediately. Fine, I said. The word hung in the air, cool and heavy as polished marble. My mother clapped her hands together. See? I knew you'd understand. It's just logistics, darling. It is, I agreed. It's just logistics. I stood, smoothed my trousers, and walked out without looking back. They thought they had won. They thought they had bullied the spare heir into submission. They did not know I had not just canceled a venue. I had canceled my membership to their family. 3 months later, I stood on scaffolding 20 feet in the air, smelling of limestone dust and wild thyme. The chateau was waking up. I stripped away rotting velvet drapes. I opened shutters sealed for 50 years. The light here was different, heavy and golden and unrepentant. It poured across stone floors I was restoring. I was not just fixing a house. I was engineering a masterpiece. I was installing a proprietary solar glass atrium in the central courtyard, invisible technology that would power the estate while looking like nothing more than crystal sky. My phone buzzed on the workbench below. It had been buzzing for 90 days. I climbed down, wiped my hands on a rag, and saw a message from Morgan. Since you saved so much money canceling your venue, Mom says you can cover the photographer upgrade. It's an extra $12,000. The magazine needs specific lighting. Transfer it by end of day. I stared at the message. The audacity was not surprising. It was structural. Then a voicemail from my mother arrived. I hit play and let her voice echo against centuries-old stone. Taylor, stop sulking. It's incredibly selfish to go dark like this just because things didn't go your way. We're all stressed making this day perfect for your sister, and your silence is making it about you. Grow up and pick up the phone. They thought I was in Chicago crying over ice cream. They thought my silence was punishment. They did not understand the physics of our family. For Morgan to be the success, there had to be a failure beside her. For her to be the beauty, there had to be a beast. I was not just a daughter. I was a prop, a dark background required for her to shine. When I left, I did not just remove myself. I broke the mirror. Without me, Morgan's extravagance did not look like triumph. It looked like need. They were not angry because they missed me. They were angry because without the scapegoat, the golden child starts to look like what she is. I did not reply. I opened my banking app and looked at my liquid assets, enough to buy her venue and turn it into a storage unit. I transferred nothing. I approved the schematic for the atrium. The glass would arrive from Germany tomorrow. Installation would be complete 3 days before Morgan's wedding. They wanted me to pay for the lighting. I smiled. I was paying for the lighting, just not theirs. 5 months before the wedding, I initiated the recruitment phase. In construction, there is a concept called load transfer. When a structural element fails, you do not patch it, you redistribute the weight to stronger columns. My nuclear family was a crumbling facade. It was time to transfer the load to the people who had actually held me up. I opened my laptop on the terrace. Lavender and heat filled the air. I did not hire a calligrapher or buy gold leaf stationery. I opened a secure email thread. The list was short. It was the discard pile from the family archives. First was Aunt Marianne, my mother's sister, exiled 5 years ago for divorcing a wealthy senator who treated her like decoration. My mother called her messy. I called her honest. Second was cousin Rachel, the black sheep who left law school to open a bakery. My father called her a wasted investment. I remembered her sneaking me books on physics when I was 12 and whispering, "Don't let them make you small." Third was Grandma Helen, 90, frail, ignored at gatherings because she could not hear well and ruined candid photos, but she was the one who taught me to read blueprints at her kitchen table. I typed the message. It was not an invitation. It was a summons to reality. I'm getting married on June 14th, not in Chicago, in Provence. You are the only family invited. I'm sending a plane. Pack for the sun. I hit send. I expected questions. I expected hesitation. Instead, I got 3 replies within 20 minutes, Marianne said finally. Rachel said packing now. Grandma Helen, through her nurse, said I have a new hat. I'm ready. They did not ask about Morgan. They did not ask why. They knew. They had lived in the shadow of conditional love for decades. They recognized the exit door the moment I opened it. 2 weeks later, the real family arrived. Watching them step into the chateau was like watching a black and white film burst into color. In Chicago, gatherings were stiff performances where nobody touched the marble. Here, Rachel threw her bag onto 17th century tiles and started opening shutters. Marianne walked into the vineyard, inhaled, and cried, not sad tears, but relief. Grandma Helen sat under the solar glass atrium and looked up at the filtered light on ancient stone. She took my hand with a grip like iron. You built this, she said. You built a cathedral. It's a house, Grandma, I said. No, she corrected. It's a fortress. The contrast was visceral. Back in Chicago, my phone still collected voicemails about costs, weather, hair trials, and imported peonies. They were freezing in the wind tunnel of their own expectations. Here we ate bread and oil on a terrace that had survived revolutions. We were warm. We were solid. I looked at my mismatched, imperfect family and realized I had not just invited guests. I had assembled a board of directors with a stake in my happiness. For the first time in 30 years, the ground beneath my feet felt stable. The morning of the wedding, I woke before sunrise. The chateau was quiet, but not empty. I heard local caterers setting up in the courtyard, their hushed French drifting through my open window. It was 6 in the morning in Provence, which meant it was 11 at night in Chicago. Morgan's rehearsal dinner would be wrapping up. My feed was flooded with her posts. The countdown begins. Morgan gets more. She posted gold chargers, towering white roses, everything stiff and overhandled. Then I saw a photo that made me laugh. It was a close-up of a wine bottle, black label, gold leaf, the Gold Reserve. She bragged it was sourced from an ultra-exclusive private vineyard in Italy. She did not know. The Gold Reserve was French. It was not sourced by her planner. It was shipped from my cellar. When I realized the vineyard harvest would be exceptional, I bottled a limited run and named it L'Or Invisible, Invisible Gold. I sent 20 cases to a distributor in Chicago under a shell company and instructed them to seed it into high-profile events for exposure. My mother, always hungry for a free status symbol, grabbed it immediately for Morgan's wedding. They were serving my wine. They were pouring my soil, my sun, my work into crystal glasses to toast a marriage built on aesthetics. They were drinking the success of the daughter they called a failure. Downstairs, Christopher was adjusting Jasmine on an archway. He looked up and smiled. You look dangerous, he said. I feel dangerous, I replied. Morgan is serving our wine. He grinned. Does she know? No, I said. Not yet. The ceremony began at golden hour. In Chicago, according to the weather app, it was 45 degrees and raining, a wintry mix hitting the yacht club windows. I imagined guests shivering in sleeveless gowns, my mother's hair frizzing, the light making everyone look washed out. Here, the light was liquid honey. I did not wear white. I wore gold, A custom gown structured like modern architecture, sharp lines with fluid silk catching the sun. I walked down limestone pavers, flanked by ancient olive trees, and looked at the faces waiting for me. Marianne wiping her eyes, Rachel filming, Grandma Helen like a queen, Christopher under the solar atrium I built, waiting for me in the home I restored. It was not a performance. It was a grounding. The officiant, a local mayor and friend, spoke about foundations, about how love like a house needs strong bones before it needs decoration. Rachel live-streamed to a few hundred followers at first, mostly friends and the people who never made the cut for Morgan's exclusive list. As I said my vows, Rachel's phone buzzed again and again. The algorithm caught it. The contrast was too perfect. The rejected sister in a golden French chateau versus the chosen sister in a rainy ballroom. The stream title became the real royal wedding. By the time Christopher kissed me, viewers climbed from 50 to 5,000. By the time we walked back down the aisle through dried lavender, it was 50,000. The photos were out there already: sun-drenched stone, architectural dress, undeniable wealth and taste in every pixel. In Chicago, guests were sitting down to dinner, checking their phones under the table. The notification did not sound like a bomb. It sounded like a ripple. One phone lit up, then another, then dozens. My father held a microphone, ready to praise Morgan as the family's shining star, but nobody looked at him. They looked at their screens. Rachel posted the money shot, me on the terrace at sunset, solar glass atrium behind me, ancient stone glowing like a halo. The caption was simple: the owner, the architect, the bride. Then a second photo, a screenshot where a deed was visible, my name beside the 14 million valuation. I was not there to see their faces, but Marianne told me later the silence in that ballroom was louder than any scream. My mother realized first. She leaned over a guest's shoulder, polite mask cracking. She saw the chateau. She saw the daughter she dismissed. She saw the scale of what I built while she critiqued my hair and my dates. She stood up and gasped like oxygen left the room. Morgan saw her reaction, grabbed a phone, scrolled, then glanced at the wine bottle in front of her. She looked at the label, then at my vineyard photos. The same rose, the same crest, the same identity. She realized she was not just upstaged. She was a prop in my story. The phone dropped and cracked, but nobody noticed, because the narrative had already shifted. In Provence, the sun had set. Jasmine scented the air. I sat at a long table with my husband and my real family, eating bread dipped in oil from my own trees. I felt a strange calm, a shift in gravity. For years I thought justice meant watching them fall. I thought revenge meant destruction. But I realized real justice is creation. They spent their lives building a stage obsessed with performance and lighting. I built foundations. I built power that did not need applause. I built a home that could stand on its own. I built a family that did not require me to shrink to make someone else shine. And that is why, when Mom said they could not come to my wedding because my sister's wedding was the priority, I did not beg, I did not negotiate. I simply let them choose. Then I built something so real that it could not be ignored. If you want, I can continue and complete the ending in the same tone, with a stronger final payoff and clean closure, while keeping everything consistent and in paragraph form.